former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley now campaigning in California after finishing second in the Nevada Republican primary. A majority of voters picked, quote, none of these candidates. It's a ballot option required by state law there. Former President Trump was not on the ballot, and no delegates were at stake. Nevada is holding another contest, Republican caucuses. That's tomorrow. A lot to follow with what's going on in Nevada. To help us out, Ed O'Keefe and Nidia Cavazos join us now. Ed is CBS News' senior White House and political correspondent. Nidia is a CBS News campaign reporter. I want to begin, Nidia, with playing something from Ambassador Haley on Fox Business. Let's listen.
We didn't spend a day or a dollar there. We weren't even worried about it. It's why we haven't talked about it. Our focus is on South Carolina, going into Michigan, going into Super Tuesday. Those are the places that we're worried about.
And Nidia, I want to read something the Haley campaign, which you track daily, issued as a statement. Let's show it on the screen here. Quote, even Donald Trump knows that when you play penny slots, I don't do that, but the House wins, it says. We didn't bother to play a game rigged for Trump. We're full steam ahead in South Carolina and beyond. A lot of bravado there, Nidia, from the Haley campaign. Confidence heading into her home state of South Carolina. What's your read about what happened in Nevada and what's ahead for her in South Carolina?
That's exactly right, Bob. While it's been quite a news day for Nikki Haley, and many have been saying that this was an embarrassing loss for Haley, she, on the other hand, as well as her campaign, have been saying that they were never truly focused on Nevada in the first place. They didn't have any campaign stops whatsoever. They didn't spend any resources as far as money in the state because they opted out for it early on in the race. They said they weren't willing to pay the $55,000 fee in order to be able to participate in a system and in a process that they've said all along that it was rigged specifically to help out former President Donald Trump. And so while many are calling it an embarrassing loss, they're saying that their focus continues to be South Carolina. And as far as Super Tuesday, they say they have the sufficient resources and more than enough to go the long distance. And so they're also focusing now on these states such as Massachusetts, campaigning here in California, and next week in Texas, where they say that 11 out of the 16 Super Tuesday states are semi-open or open primary. So this means that independents will be able to vote. And specifically, Haley's campaign is now focused on courting independents who are going to be able to participate in these semi or open primaries.
In the meantime, Ed, I wondered if UNLV is going to offer you a professor gig, because you've been doing some great reporting explaining the differences between the Nevada primary and the Nevada Republican caucuses. There are these caucuses that are still going to happen this week. Help us understand what they mean. Will they be any different in terms of the likely result from what happened in the primary?
No, this is a caucus that's designed to be Donald Trump's and Donald Trump's only, essentially. He's not the only candidate on the ballot, or some other lesser-known names, but the state party here, understanding that he does better in that format, essentially made sure that it was the option, and it was the only option, that was going to reward delegates. They fought the change in state law back in 2021 that mandated primaries, because before they had done caucuses, a judge ruled that because the parties set the rules of how they nominate their presidential candidates, the state parties can choose how to do it. So they held that primary, which didn't count, which was a bit of an embarrassment perhaps for the Haley campaign, despite the bravado. And they'll hold the caucus tomorrow night that's designed to give him the win. The thing to watch more than anything now, Bob, is how many people show up to cast ballots in that caucus versus cast ballots at the primary Tuesday night. There is some belief that none of these candidates' decision, and the fact that it won, was a trick played by Trump supporters in this state to come out and embarrass Haley. If that was their plan, it worked. Now let's see how many show up to affirm their support for the former president tomorrow night.
And Ed, what did you learn from all your conversations with voters there in recent days? Is this really still Trump's party in places like Nevada?
If it is, that's going to be an issue trying to win over those that are not Republican, independents, maybe even Democrats who are considering or would consider voting for the Republican candidate were it not Donald Trump. And so there's a reminder here of the potential limitations of his appeal in a state that Republicans would desperately like to win. The 6 electoral votes here are critical, but in the conversations we've had, candidates, the main ones at least, are not ones they prefer. They do have the option again in November, Bob, of voting for none of these candidates on the ballot if they so choose.
And Nidia, just quickly here, let's look at the Super Tuesday map. You've been working so hard traveling, covering the Haley campaign. Of all of these states, what are you really paying attention to? What should we have on our radar as Haley tries to stay in this thing?
Well, we're going to be going into South Carolina, but we sort of already know what we're going to expect. You know, Nikki Haley hasn't been saying that she's expecting to win. She's expecting to build on her game. But as far as Super Tuesday states, we have to look out for states like Massachusetts, where over 60% of the registered state voters are independents. And so this is where Nikki Haley is trying to court support. And it's a similar situation to what we saw in New Hampshire. So this is truly the opportunity for Haley to be able to gather the support and close in on former President Donald Trump.
Back to New England we go, likely. Ed O'Keefe and Nidia Cavazos, thank you.